I thought the next post, in talking about our trip to France, why not do it on video, because this is a way we're going to move the blog forward. Certainly we'll be showing videos of the trip through France, from getting on the ferry right through to the very things we'll be doing in the Loire and Brittany. But I mentioned in my last post, if you've read it, that because of complications with hotel bookings and whatever, we've ended up, that's we, myself and my wife Wendy, having an awful lot of mileage to do on that first day. It's well over 300 miles, and although that's not a lot if you like getting on the autoroute and just bombing across France, and I've done that and I'm willing to do that, but my wife certainly doesn't like to do that so much. She prefers to be able to stop and take it easier, shorter distances, and I understand that. But how can we do this when we've got that mileage that we've got to get done within that first day? Well, fortunately we roll off the ferry in Roscoff at 8 o'clock in the morning. One other thing we've done to make sure to alleviate the pressure on us is we've actually booked the deluxe cabin with Brittany Ferries. It's not an awful lot more, and the advantage of that, apart from being more comfortable, is they actually serve you breakfast in the morning. So that will set us off. We don't have to stop right away. And I've been sat down planning the route we're going to take. Well, what have I found the best way to do that? Well, initially, I'm sure all of us will go straight to the internet. And that is the best way, and that's really what I've drilled down to. But I think it's important to actually not forget these. Yes, maps, and when it comes to France, how often it's Michelin maps. Get hold of maps of where you're going to. Now, that is more difficult nowadays. You used to be able to go into any local bookshop and find maps for an array of countries. But now I find that often they only have a few, and they're not going to likely have the detailed maps of the areas you're going to. But one map I've always found very good is the Route Planning France. This is actually last year's, but that has all the main roads and the autoroutes on it. So if you're having to do a lot of mileage and use those main roads all the time, well, that helps you to get into the right area. I've also managed to find, from a rather large bookshop in Oxford, the closer up map or a higher scale map of the Loire, and that certainly is well worth it. That shows all the little back roads and everywhere else where we're going to be staying and where we're trying to reach to. But the map is useful. You may be thinking, what do I need that for? I've got my nice Garmin sat-nav. Well, that's fine, but you don't really have any relationship between what else is around. When you look at a map, you see the whole lot together. I also use the internet, particularly to do research beforehand. The AA.com is very good. These websites will be appearing on the screen here below, so you can check them out if you haven't used them. Google Maps, of course. And what I find very useful with Google Maps is if you plan to stop en route, exactly where you're going, well, you can actually go to Street View and actually see where you need to go. But a very good route planner I found is actually the Harley-Davidson one, which isn't only open to owners of Harley-Davidson. You'll see from the web address below, I think anybody can go on it, put the details in. I actually find that very useful, and I like the way they lay out the routes as well. And as I wanted to stop at a Harley-Davidson dealership on the way in Le Mans and pick up a t-shirt, it was very easy to click in and say, right, where is the dealership there, and include that in my directions. So that's very good. Now the next thing I do, and with your sat-nav you may think this isn't necessary and I've gone too far, but it helps get the route into your mind as well. Something I've done for years, particularly when travelling on the continent, is route cards. Just simple, basic route cards, where I'm setting out from and where's the next place I'm going to and what the road number is. Now, because I'm going, for instance, into the dealership in Le Mans, you can see there that I've got more complicated directions because I'm having to go through the city. Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward. And one thing I do before we set off on each stage, I write on the top, drive on the right, just to remind yourself, because that's the danger, isn't it? When you stop and you have a coffee or whatever, and you think, well, I'll pull back out on the road. If you're not on the auto route, and it's a two-way road, it's easy as a British person to come out and start driving on the left before you meet a truck on your side of the road. So it's just a tip. But route cards are still useful. If something happens with your sat-nav, if you're not certain about it, you've done route cards that you can easily glance down to, usually on your tank bag, and see where you're heading for. What it also does, it also puts into your mind the route you're taking. So when you're travelling along, you see the signs, you see the directions and the road numbers, and they will come back to you, and you'll find your trip is so much more easily done. It takes the stress out of it. So try those tips. Don't forget maps, use the websites, use your sat nav, and produce route cards for your own memory, for your own peace of mind, and to make a long journey as comfortable as possible without the stress that you can often get.